Tom Dustin, Portrait of a Comedian, is a quietly devastating exploration of a stand-up career that, while rich in moments, never quite took off in the way its subject once imagined.
I should have moved to New York. That's really what the stupid documentary is about, is my regret in not moving to New York and working harder at comedy when Joe did.
Directed by fellow comedian and longtime friend Joe List, the 90-minute documentary is part love letter, part intervention, and above all, a candid portrait of a man grappling with whether good enough is truly enough.
Looking back on it, it's more revealing than I think I wanted to reveal. Like, that's why I think people like it, is because it's really honest. I wish I had held back some stuff.
Dustin, the owner and headliner of Comedy Key West, spends most of his nights performing for tourists and locals in what he calls one of the smallest ponds in America for comedy. And in that pond, he is the biggest fish. He openly admits he likes it that way. He wants to be the guy.
You get good in a small scene, and once you're real good in that scene, then fucking bring your act to the bigger stage or the bigger market. But again, I'm a fucking failure, so...
He was once the commissioner of the Boston Comedy Softball League, proudly at the center of that world, and now he's built something similar for himself down south. But what follows is less about his act and more about the man behind it, one who's deeply conflicted about the career he built.
But I was getting booked, and I was good. I was having good shows. I didn't see the value in paying a high rent in New York City to never be there. I had it all wrong. I fucked it all up.
Man,
I need a time machine.
From testimonials by comedians like Mark Norman and Ari Shaffir, we hear that Dustin is respected in the comedy world, even if largely unknown outside of it. List, the documentary's guide and producer, clearly adores him. Early in the film, the two are sitting in a kitchen sharing laughs when Dustin gets emotional. He jokes through the tears when List says he wants to capture what it's like to be him.
I had booked Joe List to headline the club, and he called me and said, hey, I want to shoot a documentary while I'm in Key West. Is that all right? Can I bring a documentary crew? I go, what's it about? And he goes, it's about you fucking idiot. I was blown away with just the fact that he thought I'd be a decent subject for a documentary.
We learn how Dustin started in comedy after a rough breakup and found instant success at the Chop in Boston, only to bomb in his second performance so badly that he quit for a year. He eventually returned to comedy and managed to carve out a steady, if not unglamorous, career as a road comic, working the Funny Bone Club chain for about 8 years.
You know, I was middling for the Funny Bone chain of clubs, and I was opening, for pretty big acts. I was kind of pigeonholed a lot of times into, I always opened for the big urban acts. So I used to open a lot for Ari Spears, who used to be on Mad TV. He was in the movie Jerry Maguire, Eddie Griffin, and Earthquake.
When List made the move to New York to pursue bigger stages, Dustin stayed behind in Boston. He liked being important in a small world, and he admits he's scared of being just another comic in New York. He says more than once that he wishes he had just done it, gone to New York, tried harder, quit drinking.
He went down there to throw his hat in the ring, and I was always afraid of it. I was intimidated by the big city and the big scene, and I wish I hadn't been that afraid and gave it a shot, because now I'll die regretting not knowing whether or not I would have been something better, if my career would have went better if I had tried earlier.
List has been sober for over a decade. Dustin, on the other hand, continues to drink and smoke throughout the film. He doesn't hide it, and he doesn't glamorize it either. If I could talk to 25-year-old me, he says, I'd tell him to stop drinking and smoking and move to New York, but he never did, and now there's a heavy awareness of time lost.
While we were shooting it, it kind of became something different. It became more of a story of our friendship and our different paths in comedy and sobriety and alcoholism, depression, but mostly comedy. It's really funny, but it does have enough heart and honesty and emotion that people seem to like it.
Portrait of Comedian isn't a full-blown tragedy. There's deep affection here. We got scenes of Dustin beaming with pride as he talks about the club he built. Key West itself seems to have saved him in a way. For all the sadness under the surface, there's comfort in that.
I love it because it's a beautiful island. I love the club. I love the fact that all these great comedians come down and hang out and do great shows.
You ever think you'd be doing that?
No, no. I feel less like a comic now because I'm I'm not just going on the road, doing podcasts, shaking hands, doing shows. I gotta fix the fucking stage lights, or I gotta vacuum something. There's a spill in the aisle 9.
The documentary doesn't shy away from showing Dustin's flaws, a particularly rough set, his sometimes abrasive tone, his self-destructive tendencies, but it also shows the source of much of it. His complicated upbringing, his father's mental health issues and addiction, and his own lifelong struggles with depression and anxiety. Maybe you wish you held back a little bit, talking about your family and emotion. What do you think kind of brought that out of you in the moment? Like, where
Booze. I could start crying right now because I'm hungover. I drank way too much last night. I don't know. I try to bottle everything up, and then a couple of drinks in, I'm like, oh, my fucking dad never loved me. No, that's not true. He loves me.
One of the most raw and revealing sections of the film comes when Tom talks about his father, a crafty car salesman who was eventually investigated by the IRS. He had to rebrand his business and suffered a brutal beating that left him with a shattered orbital bone. The attacker thought it was Tom's uncle, his dad's identical twin. That traumatic case of mistaken identity triggered a downward spiral that resulted in PTSD, paranoia, and an eventual trip to the mental hospital for Tom's father. Tom recalls his father locking himself inside the house and trying, unsuccessfully at first, to get sober. Eventually, his father did quit drinking and has now been sober for 40 years. Tom himself was diagnosed with manic depression as a teenager, convincing himself that the depressive episodes would only last a week or two before the mania returned. And when the mania did return, he described it as awesome. He admits to going entire weeks without leaving the house or even showering. Therapy, too, was a path he once tried, but ultimately abandoned. He shares an unsettling story of going to a therapist and feeling like he was finally on the verge of a breakthrough, only to hit the 1-hour mark and abruptly get cut off. When Tom asked to keep going, the therapist snapped at him, which left him rattled and reluctant to ever return. That single bad encounter turned him off to the idea of therapy altogether. Since then, he's resorted to coping through humor, cigarettes, alcohol, and the comforting myth that great minds throughout history have endured similar emotional torment without help.
I did have a couple of DUIs. It kind of sidetracked my whole comedy career because I was a road comic, pretty much driving from town to town, gig to gig. Then when I got the DUI, I was a road comic without access to the road.
The final scenes are particularly moving. Cigarette in hand, Dustin reflects on what it means to be remembered, not just as a comedian, but as a person. There's a sense that this documentary is more than just a project to him, and you can see in his face this isn't something he takes lightly. In that moment, he admits, I recognize my mistakes. I'm happy where I ended up, but I wish I could go back. He's not making a big speech. He's just telling the truth as plainly as he can. Even as he insists that he found peace in Key West, owning a club, building a community, living in paradise, there's this flicker of something unresolved. The man who chose to stay behind in Boston while others like Liz moved to New York still wonders what might have happened if he'd taken the leap, if he'd quit drinking, if he tried harder. He believes in his heart that he could have made it further. He says it wouldn't have just meant more success, but maybe some extra money in his pocket. A simple way to measure the life he almost lived. Dustin may be okay with where he landed, but you can tell he's still holding on to something. The regret isn't loud, but it's constant. And in that way, it's the perfect final note for a film that never promises answers, just honesty. Did you kind of know what it was going to be about at the time?
No, I didn't know, and Joe didn't know what it was going to be about either. I think he had kind of wanted it to be like that, just me and him telling stories about, being fucking idiots. I've been overwhelmingly positive. People like it. And even Bill Burr fucking loved it. Doug Stanhope loved it. Ari Shaffir said it was the funniest documentary he's ever seen. Joe has always, even when we were young, starting out comedians, he's a film buff. I think his intention is to be a filmmaker, in addition to being one of the best comedians in the world. I have no interest or idea of making any movies or anything.
You're more of the star than
people say that people are like, oh, you're the star of a documentary. There's no such thing. I'm the subject. I was the subject of a documentary. People are like, oh, yeah, you're gonna become famous because of this, which I always answer, name me one person that was the subject of a documentary that became famous because of the documentary. And here's the qualifier, who is not dead or in jail. Because everyone that was the subject of a documentary that got famous because of it is dead or in jail. Tiger King, jail. Fucking Morgan Spurlock, dead. I think it's pretty good. It's pretty locked up where if you're the subject of a documentary, you don't get famous. And if you do get famous, you're dead or
Alrighty, guys, that was my Portrait of a Comedian review. Have you guys seen the film? Have you not? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to check the links down below as well. You can like me on Facebook at Trebe Talks, follow me on Twitter at Trebe Talks, or follow me on Instagram at Trey Vaughn Pixley. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, hope you guys have a great rest of your day.